What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. In today's video, I want to talk about why the Atlanta Falcons should re-sign Russell Gage. But if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when I've done Atlanta Falcons content. Hit that like button for your boy. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for continuing to tune into the channel, continuing to share out my content on all the social media platforms. If you would like to follow your boy on Twitter and Instagram, you can follow me at JewTalkSports. If you would like to donate to my channel, you can donate to my Cash App, which is the $JewTalkSports. But with that being said, let's jump right into the video. So like I mentioned in today's video, I do want to talk about why the Atlanta Falcons should re-sign Russell Gage. As you already may know, Calvin Ridley, yesterday the news broke that he was suspended or has been suspended for the 2022 NFL season due to gambling and betting on NFL games. So with that being said, the Atlanta Falcons definitely have to move forward. And I think at this point, they have to make Russell Gage a priority in free agency. And it's a couple reasons I say that, which I'll break down in this video. The first reason why I think the Falcons have to look at making Russell Gage a priority is his familiarity with Matt Ryan. You guys know that I'm huge on talking about players have to have chemistry. That's something that I believe in on the offensive line, quarterbacks and wide receivers, quarterbacks and tight ends. They have to have that chemistry. Players have to have that chemistry. In certain situations, you have to know what the wide receiver is going to do, what the tight end is going to do as a quarterback. You have to build that chemistry and that relationship. We saw last year with Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts. Even though Kyle Pitts led our team in receiving yards, we seen times where Kyle Pitts broke his route off or he stopped his route and Matt Ryan thought he was going to keep going upfield. It was times where Kyle Pitts didn't understand that he needed to come back to the football. It was those small things that Julio Jones understood when he played with Matt Ryan because they had played with each other for a number of years. And that's something that I think that Russell Gage kind of built last year with Matt Ryan and has built over the last 3 or 4 seasons that he's been an Atlanta Falcon. Matt Ryan now trusts Russell Gage in certain situations. So we've seen that last year when it came to plays where we needed to move the chains on third down. Russell Gage was that guy. When it came to the 50-50 balls where Matt Ryan was throwing the deep ball down the field, Russell Gage came up with some spectacular catches. So I feel like in any offense, you want to give your quarterback players that they're familiar with. You want to give quarterbacks kind of that security blanket, that player that they know that they can rely on in certain situations. And I feel like Russell Gage at this point last year, he was that guy for Matt Ryan. And I feel like if you do allow Russell Gage to walk in free agency, next year we're going to have a bunch of young guys playing with Matt Ryan, and they're not going to have any chemistry with Matt Ryan, which could lead to disaster. I mean, the only player that Matt Ryan has played a number of snaps with now is Kyle Pitts, and that was just his rookie season last year. Other than that, we really don't have that wide receiver 1 or 2 that Matt Ryan can actually rely on. So at this point, I definitely think that Russell Gage should be the guy that the Falcons should bring back. I don't believe Russell Gage is a number 1 wide receiver, but we've seen in years past with other teams that you don't have to be a number 1 receiver to be an X factor for a team. And the guy that I would point to is a guy like Wes Welker when he was with the Patriots. He wasn't a number 1 wide receiver. He wasn't a guy really that you could line up on the outside. He was mainly a slot player, a slot receiver, but he was a guy that Tom Brady relied on. Him and Rob Gronkowski were guys that Tom Brady relied upon to move the chains. And he was a guy that Tom Brady really relied upon in that offense. So I feel like it's the same thing with our Atlanta Falcons. I know a lot of people have been talking about bringing back CP, and I do think that the Falcons should bring back Cordell Patterson now as well, being that we're getting that $11 million back from Calvin Ridley's salary. I do think that Cordell Patterson should be brought back as well, but I think that CP should be brought back in the same role that he played last year, mainly as a running back and mainly as a special teams player and then occasionally you split him out wide in 5 wide receiver sets, or you throw him a quick screen pass or a wheel route out of the backfield. I don't think that CP is the wide receiver talent that Russell Gage is. I really think that Russell Gage's route running ability is really underrated, and I definitely think that he's a better pure wide receiver than CP. If it came down to Russell Gage or Cordell Patterson to play wide receiver, I would take Russell Gage every day of the week. I really like Cordell Patterson as a football player, as a player that you can use like as that Swiss Army knife, but I don't think that he's a pure wide receiver. And we've seen that over Cordell Patterson's NFL career. When he was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, he mainly was a special teams ace. He never panned out as a wide receiver because he's not a great route runner. Yes, he's a guy that can go across the middle and catch slants and do different things and run streak patterns and run wheel routes and things of that nature out of the backfield. But I don't think that he's the route runner that a guy like Russell Gage is. Russell Gage is really good in the slot, and he proved last year that he's really good on the outside as well and running different routes. So I definitely think that Russell Gage is one of those guys the Falcons should bring back. Another thing I think that's being overlooked by a lot of Falcons fans is that Russell Gage is a Swiss Army knife in himself. If you guys remember, not last year, but the year before last, when we had Dirk Cutter, they used Russell Gage a lot in the backfield to throw passes down the field in the Wildcat. A lot of different trick plays that they were able to use Russell Gage because of his former quarterback experience. And he's also a solid player on special teams as well. A lot of people forget that when Russell Gage came to the Atlanta Falcons, the first couple years, he mainly was a special teams ace and a guy that they used on punt return, kickoff return. He was used in a lot of different ways because we had the Mohamed Sanus of the world. We had the Julio Jones of the world, and we had Taylor Gabriel. So we really didn't use Russell Gage as a wide receiver. But this is another reason why I point to player development. I always talk about being able to develop players, and Russell Gage and Afoye Oluokun are two of the players that in the last regime, they did a good job of development. Even though I don't think that Dan Quinn and TD did a solid job of developing players when they were here, two of the players that did actually pan out and did actually develop was Russell Gage and Foye. So I definitely think that it's important to bring back Russell Gage because he'll be that guy in that wide receiver room. If you do draft a player like Drake London, if you do draft one of these stud wide receivers, which I feel like even if you re-sign Russell Gage, you still need to draft another wide receiver as well. He'll be that voice in that locker room. He'll be that voice in that wide receiver room because I'm big on having veterans on this team. When Julio Jones was here, he was that guy that led that wide receiver room. He was the guy that helped Russell Gage develop, helped Mohamed Sanu when he came along, helped Calvin Ridley develop when he came in as a rookie. And now that torch has been passed to Russell Gage to be that guy. I don't think that he's a number one wide receiver, as I mentioned, but I do think he's a wide receiver that understands and knows Arthur Smith's scheme. So if you bring in a young wide receiver, he'll help speed up that development process because he'll be in that room. He'll be able to help that young player come along, and he'll help that young wide receiver understand the playbook and understand the nuances of what Arthur Smith wants and also the nuances of what Matt Ryan is looking for out of his wide receiver. So I definitely think that Russell Gage is a guy that kind of has been overlooked and we haven't really talked about, or I haven't really talked about a lot on my channel because I was kind of trying to wait to see if Calvin Ridley would come back next season or if Calvin Ridley was going to be traded. But now that we know Calvin Ridley's fate, I definitely think that it's important that we bring back a guy like Russell Gage to come in and be that guy, that be that veteran in that locker room, be that voice to help these young players continue to develop, and also be that guy for Matt Ryan to be that security blanket. Because I talked about it, earlier in the video that one thing that I loved about Russell Gage last season was he understood what defenses were trying to do to him, and he understood what defenses were trying to do to Matt Ryan. So in certain situations, like when teams are in zone coverages, Russell Gage is very good at sitting down, knowing where the void is in the zone. He's very good at understanding when defenses are in man coverage and when defenses are in zone coverages. And he did a good job of separating and getting open and giving Matt Ryan somebody to throw the ball to other than Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts was pretty much blanketed the whole season. And Russell Gage was that guy that stepped up when he came back from his ankle injury. He did a really good job on the back half of the season of proving that he could be a solid wide receiver. I think he's mainly a wide receiver 2 or 3, but he's versatile. He's a guy you can put in the slot, and he's a guy you can use on the outside. So if you do draft a guy like Drake London, you could have Kyle Pitts on one side, Drake London on the outside, and then you could put Russell Gage in a slot where he's very dangerous and he can move the chains for our offense. Also, you can split him out wide in those 2 wide receiver sets. And he's proven that last season that he can be a guy also on the outside that can win the 50-50 balls and high pointing the football. And he proved that he's a guy who can run after catch. So I definitely think the Falcons should look at re-signing Russell Gage. I could see the Falcons signing him to like a 2 or 3 year deal to bring him back. I don't think it'll take a whole lot of money to bring him back, but I definitely think it's very important that the Falcons consider bringing him back. Now that we know that Calvin Ridley is no longer going to be able to play, we definitely going to need a veteran on this team that's going to be able to help these young players come along. And we're also going to need Matt Ryan is going to need that security blanket and that guy that he can trust in certain situations to get the job done. But with that being said, this been your boy Jew. You guys let me know what you think of the video. As always, Falcons Nation, rise up. Peace.